Have you ever hit a wall so hard it shook your belief in everything you were working for? One moment you're chasing your dream with all the fire in your heart. The next you're staring at your ceiling at 3 a.m. asking yourself, what's the point? You're tired, you're drained, and a tiny voice inside whispers, maybe this just isn't for me. But here's the thing, that voice is lying to you. You didn't come this far just to come this far. And in the next few minutes you're going to learn something most people never realize. Quitting doesn't start with failure. It starts when we forget why we began. That moment when everything feels heavy, that's not a sign to stop. It's a signal to remember. This isn't just another motivational video. This is a wake-up call, a reminder, a mirror held up to your soul. Because deep down you already have the strength. What you've lost is the reason. And that's what we're here to find again. Today you'll discover why your brain tricks you into quitting right when you're closest to a breakthrough. The hidden science of mental fatigue and how to reverse it. Why your why is the greatest tool you'll ever own, and how to reignite the fire you thought was gone for good. But let me warn you, this isn't about hype. This is about truth, about going deep into the core of your struggle, where most people are too afraid to look, and pulling something powerful out of the darkness. So ask yourself, have you ever been on the edge of giving up on your goals, your dreams, or even yourself? If the answer is yes, then this moment right now is more important than you realize. You see, when we begin anything meaningful, whether it's a journey toward a new life, a passion project, a transformation, we're fueled by something raw, something real, hope, desire, vision, purpose. But then life happens, we get hit, we fall behind, doubt creeps in like smoke in a locked room, and we begin to forget what that fire even felt like. This is not weakness, this is human. Your mind is wired for survival, not greatness. It will always try to talk you out of doing hard things because it's afraid of the unknown. That's not your fault, that's your programming. But here's the part they don't teach you. You can reprogram it. You can interrupt the doubt, override the fear, and silence the excuses. Not with sheer willpower, that fades, but with clarity, with a memory, a reminder. Think back. What made you start? Not just the surface reasons. I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to start a business. I wanted to change my life. No, go deeper. What did that goal represent? Was it freedom, self-respect, proving them wrong, creating a life you didn't have to escape from? That's your why, and it's still inside you, buried beneath the exhaustion, crushed by the weight of expectations, hidden by the noise of the world. But it didn't die. It's waiting for you to stop, to sit still for 1 second, and remember, because the truth is, quitting doesn't come when the task is too hard. It comes when the purpose becomes too blurry. That's why some people succeed no matter what obstacles they face. They keep their reason sharp. They don't wake up wondering if they'll keep going. They wake up knowing why they have to, every single day. And here's something else most people don't know. Willpower is not unlimited. You can't grind your way through forever. Your brain burns energy like fuel, and when the tank is low, it starts screaming, give up, this is too much, just stop. That's when most people quit, not because they're lazy, not because they're not capable, but because no one ever told them, you don't need more willpower, you need more purpose. Purpose doesn't run out, it recharges you. It wakes you up at 5 a.m., it pulls you through the worst days, it becomes your anchor when the world feels like a storm. And guess what? The very fact that you're watching this right now, that you haven't clicked away, that you're still listening, means your fire isn't out, it's just buried under fear, under frustration, under disappointment. But buried doesn't mean dead. You can dig it out, you can bring it back, you can take one step, just one, toward everything you ever wanted. So before we go deeper, let me ask you again, have you ever felt like giving up? If you have, you're not alone, you're not broken, and you're not finished. In fact, you're standing at the most powerful crossroads of your life, where the pain of staying the same finally becomes heavier than the pain of changing, where the doubt that's held you back becomes the fuel that drives you forward. This is where people either quit or rise. Which one are you? Because the rest of this video is going to guide you through that fire. We'll break down the psychology of persistence. We'll remind you how to build clarity when chaos takes over. We'll show you how your smallest wins are signs you're not done yet. And by the end of it, you won't just remember why you started. You'll feel it deep in your chest, burning behind your eyes, crashing through your heart like thunder. And that feeling, that's not motivation, that's conviction. And that, my friend, is what gets you back up. Not once, not twice, but every single time you fall. So if you're ready to stop quitting on yourself, if you're ready to remember your why, then keep watching, because everything you've been searching for, it's already inside you. And this is just the beginning. Before we talk about the solution, let's talk about where you are right now. You're tired, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. The kind of tired that doesn't go away with a nap or a weekend off. It's the exhaustion that builds up slowly, creeping in when your progress starts to stall. You've been putting in the effort, you've been showing up, you've done everything they said you should do, but the results, they're either small or non-existent, and that's when the question starts to form in your mind. Why am I even doing this? At first you had momentum, you were excited, motivated, you had that rush of energy that comes from starting something new, whether it was a fitness goal, a career dream, or a personal mission. The beginning was full of hope. Every small win felt like a step forward. Every step made you feel alive. But then somewhere along the way, that spark faded. The wins became harder to notice. The pace slowed down, and what once felt exciting started to feel like a chore. You look around, and maybe others seem to be moving faster. Maybe they're getting the results you wanted. Maybe they're smiling while you're struggling just to get out of bed. And slowly that voice of doubt starts to grow louder. It whispers things you don't want to admit out loud. Maybe this isn't working. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I should just quit. And the worst part, you can't even explain it to people around you. Because from the outside, it might look like everything's fine. Maybe you're still doing the work, still showing up, but inside you're drained. You're going through the motions without feeling any movement. You feel stuck in place, like pushing a boulder that just won't budge, and that wears on your spirit more than any physical effort ever could. You start questioning everything, the plan, the process, yourself. You begin to wonder if the goal you were chasing even matters anymore. Was it ever realistic? Was it ever truly yours? Or were you chasing someone else's definition of success? These thoughts come quietly at first, but they grow louder every day. You don't see the results you hoped for. And when progress slows down for long enough, the temptation to give up feels like the only option. You begin to bargain with yourself. I'll take a break for a while. I'll stop just for now and come back later. But deep down you know what that really means. You're not talking about resting. You're thinking about quitting, about letting it all go. And maybe you even convince yourself that it's the logical thing to do, the smart choice. Why keep going when you're getting nothing back? But here's the truth about that moment. It's not just about the external results. It's not about the pace or the numbers. It's about the weight of trying so hard and still feeling like you're stuck. It's about the frustration of giving your all and not seeing the return. That feeling is real, and it's powerful. And if you don't understand it, it can pull you away from everything you've been working for. Before we talk about the reason to keep going, let's sit with where you are right now. Let's be honest about it. You're worn out, not just physically, but mentally. It's the kind of exhaustion that builds layer by layer, not from one bad day, but from many. Days where things didn't go as planned. Days where the results didn't match the effort. Days where you gave everything you had and still felt like you were standing in the same place. That kind of fatigue doesn't scream, it whispers, quietly, consistently, until it becomes the background noise in your life, and then the smallest things start to feel like mountains. A simple task feels like lifting a weight you're too tired to carry. That spark that once pushed you forward, now flickers like it's about to go out. It's not just that you're tired, it's that you don't feel like you have anything left to give. You open your eyes in the morning and you already feel behind. You question whether anything you're doing even matters, and that question alone can stop your momentum in its tracks. It's not that you're weak, it's not that you're lazy, you're just drained. You've been carrying too much for too long without rest, without pause, without acknowledgement. Mental fatigue isn't always obvious. It doesn't show up as broken bones or bruises. It shows up as doubt, as low energy, as that strange heavy feeling in your chest when you think about what still needs to be done. You look at your goals, your plans, and instead of feeling inspired, you feel weighed down. And the worst part is, you feel like you shouldn't feel this way. You tell yourself you're supposed to be stronger, that others have it harder, that quitting would make you a failure. So you keep going, but not in a healthy way. You push yourself without joy, without purpose, without remembering why you started. And every new challenge feels more like a threat than an opportunity. Even the things you used to enjoy become chores. The fire that once lit you up has cooled into something dim and distant. Mental fatigue doesn't just slow you down. It changes how you see the world. It makes problems feel bigger than they are. It makes solutions seem further away. It tricks you into believing that effort is pointless, that no matter how hard you work, nothing will change. That illusion becomes your reality, and soon giving up doesn't feel like defeat. It starts to feel like relief. This is the point where many people walk away, not because they aren't capable, but because they're tired of carrying something that feels too heavy. They mistake exhaustion for failure. They mistake burnout for a sign they're not meant to succeed. But what they're really feeling is the weight of being human, the weight of pushing for something important without taking time to heal, to breathe, to remember why it matters. And when that pain builds up, when every obstacle feels like one too many, it becomes harder to see what's on the other side. You lose the vision. You forget the path. And in that fog of mental exhaustion, the idea of stopping feels like the only thing that makes sense. Before we talk about the next step, let's pause. Not to stop the journey, but to take a moment and turn inward. You've been pushing so hard, climbing, crawling, surviving, and somewhere along the way, something got blurry. Maybe you've been chasing a goal so intensely that you forgot where it all began. So let's ask the one question that can bring everything back into focus. What made you start this in the first place? Not the surface answer. Not because I had to, or because someone told me to,
Go back further. Go deeper. Think about the version of you that stood at the starting line, full of hope, maybe fear, but mostly filled with a sense of possibility. That version of you saw something worth fighting for. Maybe it was the dream of a better life. Maybe it was proving to yourself, or to the world, that you were capable of more. Maybe it was escaping a place you never wanted to return to. Whatever it was, it lit something inside of you, and that flame got you moving. But life has a way of piling on distractions, doubt, setbacks, pressure, other people's opinions, and suddenly that fire starts to flicker. Not because it's gone, but because it's been buried. Buried under routine. Buried under results that didn't come fast enough. Buried under the weight of trying to be everything for everyone. And yet if you stop for just 1 second, if you truly pause, you can still feel it. Your why is still there. It never left. It's just been waiting for you to remember it. Think back to the first day you decided to change. That moment when you said, "I want something more." What did you feel? Was it clarity? Was it desperation? Was it love for your family? For your future self? For a version of you that hadn't existed yet? That feeling is your compass. It's what carried you through the first hard steps. And it's what can carry you again. Purpose isn't just a motivational phrase. It's oxygen. It's what keeps you going when the results don't show. It's what makes the struggle worth it. When you forget your purpose, every task feels heavy. But when you remember it, everything, even the hard parts, starts to make sense again. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture the moment you said yes to this journey. What was the emotion in your chest? What future were you chasing? What pain were you running from? That moment still matters. It didn't lose its power just because the road got tough. In fact, that moment matters even more now because this is when most people forget it. But not you. You're not here to quit. You're here to remember. And when you do, something shifts. The burden gets lighter. The vision gets clearer. And suddenly the next step doesn't feel impossible. It feels necessary. Because you're no longer walking aimlessly. You're walking with purpose. Before we talk about the next obstacle on your path, we need to look inward, deeper than just tired muscles or a foggy mind. We need to look at the emotional why. That powerful personal reason that first sparked something inside you. It's not always easy to define, and sometimes you forget it's even there. But when you find it again, everything changes. Because logic alone won't carry you through the hard days. Data, goals, and checklists won't pull you out of bed when your soul feels heavy. But emotion, raw, real emotion, that's a force stronger than resistance, stronger than fear, stronger than doubt. Ask yourself, what's the real reason behind this journey? Not the one you post on social media, not the one you share when people ask. The real reason. Is it the fear of regret, that quiet aching thought in the back of your mind? What if I don't try hard enough? What if I give up too early, and one day I'm forced to live with that? That's not a fear that screams. It whispers. It visits you in the quiet moments, when no one's watching. When you look in the mirror and ask yourself if you're proud of what you're building. That kind of fear doesn't paralyze you. It pushes you, because deep down, you know the pain of regret is far heavier than the pain of persistence. Or maybe it's a dream, a vision that burns so clearly in your imagination, you can almost feel it in your hands. Maybe you've seen a version of your future, one where you're free, fulfilled, proud, a version of you that no longer doubts themselves. And that dream, even when life gets heavy, still calls your name, even if it's faint, even if it's been covered by distractions, failure, or fatigue. It's still there, still alive. That dream is more than just an image, it's your emotional blueprint. And even when the path gets dark, that blueprint can help guide you home. Maybe your why isn't about you at all. Maybe it's about the people you love, the ones who believe in you, or the ones who don't, and you're trying to prove wrong. Maybe it's about providing more for your family, creating security, giving your kids, your parents, your partner, something you never had growing up. That kind of motivation hits different, when you're not just fighting for your own future, but for someone else's peace, for someone else's pride. That kind of why lights a fire that doesn't go out when things get hard. In fact, it burns brighter. Sometimes your emotional why is shaped by pain, a moment you never want to repeat, a chapter of your life you closed but still remember. Maybe you hit rock bottom once. Maybe you felt lost, ashamed, invisible. And now every step forward is one more inch away from that place. That pain still lives inside you. And though you've learned how to carry it, it's also become fuel. You never want to go back. So you keep moving forward. Not because it's easy, but because you've already felt what quitting costs. And it's a price you'll never pay again. Emotional why isn't a one-size-fits-all idea. It's deeply personal. For some, it's a quiet promise whispered in the dark. For others, it's a loud declaration made in front of a mirror. Either way, it's yours. And only you know how much it matters. That's what makes it powerful. When your why is rooted in emotion, real unfiltered emotion, it becomes harder to walk away. Quitting becomes not just a decision, but a betrayal of something sacred, something you believed in. And when things get hard, and they always do, it's that emotional why that reminds you why it's worth it. Not because you enjoy the struggle, but because you understand the reason behind the struggle, and that understanding is what gives you resilience. Grit, heart, that's what separates people who push forward from those who give up. Not talent, not luck, but emotional clarity. the kind that comes from knowing exactly what you're fighting for and why it matters. This is more than just motivation. This is meaning, and meaning lasts longer than momentum. Momentum fades. Meaning doesn't. Meaning sticks with you when the motivation is gone, when the energy is low, when the wins are nowhere to be seen. And if you can connect back to that emotional why, if you can sit with it, feel it, and let it remind you of what you stand to gain or lose, then no amount of pressure, no wave of fatigue can break you. Because the strongest person in the room is never the loudest. It's the one who remembers why they started, and keeps going anyway. Before we talk about pushing through the next challenge, we need to understand something most people overlook. Willpower isn't endless. It might feel like a strong force, something we can summon at any time, but in reality, it's more fragile than we think. Willpower runs out, it depletes, and when it does, even the smallest tasks can feel impossible. Think of willpower like a phone battery. When it's fully charged, everything works smoothly. You can open apps, play music, take calls, but as the battery drains, performance slows, the screen dims, features start to shut off. Eventually, if you don't recharge it, the phone powers down completely. Willpower works the same way. Each decision you make, each moment you resist distraction, each time you push yourself to do something difficult, it uses a little bit of that battery. At the start of the day, your willpower might be strong. You feel focused, disciplined, ready to follow through. But as the day goes on, life happens. You deal with problems, you face pressure, you navigate stress. Every one of those things drains your mental energy. You may not feel it happening, but hour by hour, that reserve of willpower is being chipped away. And when it gets low, your ability to stay on track suffers. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. That's why people often start their mornings with great intentions. They wake up, write to-do lists, promise themselves today will be different. But by the time evening comes, they've eaten junk food, skipped the gym, procrastinated, and scrolled through social media for hours. It's not because they don't care, it's because their willpower was used up. And once it's gone, you're left running on habit, or nothing at all. This is where most people quit. Not in the morning when the energy is high, but in the late afternoon or evening, when the battery is empty, and temptation is strongest. The truth is, discipline isn't just about pushing harder, it's about managing your energy, knowing when to rest, knowing how to recharge. Because when your willpower is low, everything feels harder. Your goals feel further away. You start questioning yourself, not because your dream changed, but because your energy did. That's why relying only on willpower is dangerous. It will fail you if you treat it like it's infinite. The key is to build systems, routines, habits, so that when your battery is low, you don't need to think. You don't need to decide. You just follow the process you already designed for yourself. So before you criticize yourself for not having enough motivation, pause. Ask yourself, are you actually failing, or are you just running on empty? There's a difference. And when you understand that willpower isn't a flaw, but a finite resource, you begin to work with your mind, not against it. You start to see that quitting doesn't mean you're not strong. It might just mean you're tired. And that awareness changes everything.
Before we talk about the next excuse you might hear from your mind, let's look ahead, not just a week, not a month, but far into the future. Picture yourself years from now. Maybe you're older, maybe life has slowed down, and maybe you've got more time to sit and think. Now imagine this version of you looking back. Not just at the wins, but at the choices, at the turning points, at the moments where things could have gone differently, if only you had held on a little longer. That image is powerful, because it's not the regret of doing too much that haunts us. It's the regret of quitting too early. Close your eyes for a second and picture that version of yourself. They're sitting alone in a quiet room. It's not dramatic. There's no storm, no big music, just silence. And in that silence, they remember, not the exact dates or events, but the feeling, the heaviness that comes from knowing they were close, and they let it go. They remember the days when they almost made it through, the nights when they were tired but not broken, the mornings they could have tried again, but they didn't. Not because they couldn't, but because they gave up just before the breakthrough. That version of you isn't angry, they're not bitter, but they are heavy with something harder to carry than failure. What if you had tried one more time? What if you had kept going even when it made no sense? What if you had believed in yourself on the days when no one else did? That kind of regret doesn't come with yelling or tears. It comes with a quiet ache, the kind you feel in your chest when you realize that the only thing standing between you and the life you wanted was time and effort you didn't give. It's easy to convince yourself that quitting now is a small thing, that you'll pick it up again later, that this goal doesn't matter that much. But the truth is, every time you quit, you create a version of your future that's a little dimmer, a little further away from the life you imagined. Regret isn't about shame, it's about missed chances. And the hardest part, you won't always know how close you were when you stopped. You might have been just one step away. That's why you need to think about the future, not as a threat, but as a mirror. One that reflects the consequences of giving up. One that asks, will you be proud of what you did, or will you always wonder what could have been? Because when that older version of you looks back, they won't care about how tired you were. They won't remember how hard it felt. They'll only remember whether you gave up or kept going. And that choice, the one you make today, becomes the story they live with forever. Before we talk about the reward waiting at the end of the journey, we need to talk about what's happening during it. Right now, in the struggle, in the fight, in those moments when everything feels hard and nothing makes sense. Because most people think growth happens only when things are going well, when the path is clear, when the work is smooth. But that's not how real growth works. The truth is, every tough moment you go through is shaping you, molding you, teaching you, even if you can't see it right now. Think about the last time life tested you. Maybe it was failure, maybe it was heartbreak, maybe it was doubt, fear, or just one of those long, hard stretches of time where nothing seemed to go your way. In the moment, it probably felt like a setback, like you were losing ground, like all the progress you had made was slipping through your fingers. But if you zoom out, if you look back on it now, you'll realize something powerful. You didn't break, you adapted, you learned, you survived. And whether you realize it or not, that changed. That's what a growth mindset is. It's the belief that who you are is not fixed, that your intelligence, your strength, your skills, your confidence, none of it is set in stone. It's all something you can build, through repetition, through the pain of falling, and the power of getting back up. A growth mindset says, this is hard, but I'm learning. It says, I failed, but I'm growing. It's not about pretending things are easy. It's about trusting that every hard thing has a hidden gift, an opportunity to become more than you were before. Now, this isn't just philosophy, it's backed by science. Psychologists have shown that people with a growth mindset don't just feel better, they perform better. Why? Because they approach obstacles differently. When things get difficult, they don't assume it means they're not good enough. They assume it means they have something new to learn. And that tiny shift in thinking changes everything. It keeps them moving forward, even when the path gets steep. Here's the truth nobody talks about. The person who wins in the long run isn't always the most talented. It's the one who sees struggle as a teacher, not a punishment. The one who welcomes challenges, not because they enjoy pain, but because they understand what pain produces. That kind of person becomes dangerous, in the best way, because they can't be broken by setbacks. They're fueled by them. They become unstoppable, not because they never fall, but because they never stop learning from the fall. Every tough moment is building you in ways you don't always notice right away. That moment you chose to keep going when no one was watching, that was strength. That conversation where you finally spoke up instead of staying quiet, that was courage. That time you failed, owned it and tried again, that was resilience. You weren't born with those traits, you built them, and you're still building them now. Pain shapes perspective. It humbles you. It teaches you what matters. It makes you more patient, more compassionate, more focused. When life is easy, you don't have to dig. But when it's hard, that's when the real parts of you get revealed. That's when your limits get tested. That's when you find out what you're made of, and who you're becoming. It's easy to admire people who seem strong, who keep showing up, who never seem to break. But what you don't see is what they had to go through to become that person. You don't see the tears, the losses, the doubts, the silent battles they fought behind closed doors. You don't see the nights they stayed up questioning everything, the times they were rejected, the days they almost gave up, but chose not to. That strength didn't come from nowhere. It came from pressure, from persistence, from pain, and from the decision again and again to believe that they were still growing, no matter what life threw at them. Your struggles are shaping you the same way. You may not feel it now. You might feel tired, discouraged, ready to quit. But there is something growing inside of you that's worth fighting for. Every time you face something hard and decide to keep going, you are building muscle. Not just physical muscle, emotional, mental, spiritual muscle. And that's the kind of strength that doesn't wear out. It's the kind that carries you through the next challenge, and the one after that. A growth mindset doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It doesn't mean ignoring your pain, or pretending to be positive when you're not. It means looking at your pain and saying, this hurts, but I will learn from it. I will not waste it. I will use it. It means asking better questions when things go wrong. Not why, but what is this trying to teach me? Not how can I escape this, but how can I grow from this? That simple shift takes you out of victim mode and puts you back in control. When you start to see life this way, everything changes. You stop fearing failure. You stop dreading discomfort. You start embracing it. You start understanding that every challenge is an invitation, not to prove how perfect you are, but to discover how strong you can become. That's what a growth mindset gives you. Not a shortcut around the pain, but a deeper reason to walk through it. The next time you hit a wall, remember this. The wall is not the end of the path. It's part of it. And you have two choices. You can stop and walk away, or you can figure out how to climb. Maybe you fall a few times. Maybe it takes longer than you wanted. But every time you try, you gain something. Skill, insight, confidence. And eventually you look back and realize the wall wasn't a block. It was a blessing. Real growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from the stretch, the effort, the fight. And once you truly understand that, once you stop fearing the hard parts, you unlock something powerful. You stop needing things to be easy. You start becoming someone who gets stronger, no matter what happens. That's the difference between people who rise and people who stay stuck. Not their circumstances, not their luck, but their mindset. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are becoming, right here, right now. Every hard moment you face is not the enemy. It's the lesson. It's the training ground. It's the forge where the next version of you is being built. And when you finally come out the other side, you won't just be stronger. You'll be wiser, sharper, braver, because you chose not to quit. You chose to grow. And that choice over and over again is what builds greatness. Before we talk about how to keep going, let's remind ourselves of something we often forget. You are not alone. Feeling stuck, overwhelmed, lost or tired isn't something unique to you. It's not a sign that you're doing life wrong. It's not proof that you're weaker than others. It's simply part of being human. Everyone, at some point, hits a wall. It might look different from the outside, but inside, the struggle is the same. Self-doubt, fear, exhaustion. These emotions visit everyone, no matter how strong they seem, or how far ahead they appear to be. It's easy to scroll through social media or look around your workplace or community and believe that other people have it all figured out, that their journey is smooth, that they've never hit a breaking point. But that's not true. What you're often seeing is the highlight reel, not the full story. People don't always show their lowest points. They don't always talk about their failures, their fears, their bad days, but everyone has had moments where they questioned their worth, where they wanted to quit, where they felt like they were the only ones struggling to keep it together. Even the most successful people you admire have had their breaking point. Athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, leaders, every one of them has faced a wall. The difference is, they didn't let that wall define them. They didn't assume that struggle meant failure. They didn't treat that moment of doubt as the end. They recognized it for what it was, a temporary block, not a permanent verdict. That's the mindset that keeps people going. Not the absence of difficulty, but the acceptance that difficulty is normal. You're not broken for feeling stuck. You're not behind because progress is slow. And you're not a failure for needing rest, space, or time. That wall you've hit, others have hit it too, and many of them found their greatest breakthroughs on the other side of it. But they didn't get there by pretending everything was fine. They got there by being honest with themselves, and sometimes with others, about the fact that it was hard, that they were scared, that they didn't know what came next. There's a strange power in simply knowing that someone else has felt what you're feeling. It makes the weight a little light. It reminds you that pain doesn't isolate you. It connects you. And when you start to understand that truth, the wall in front of you starts to look a little less like a stop sign and more like a shared experience, one that others have faced and overcome. And that means you can too. Pain is not a weakness. Struggle is not shameful. And needing support doesn't make you fragile. It makes you real. When you embrace that, when you stop pretending you have to do it all alone, something shifts. The pressure lifts. The path becomes clear. And instead of seeing the wall as the end, you start to see it as a moment. One that will pass. One that can teach you something. One that you are more than strong enough to move through. Before we talk about the glory of success and what it feels like to achieve something great, let's take a step back and talk about pain. The kind that keeps you up at night. The kind that makes you question your path. The kind that whispers to you that maybe it's not worth it. Everyone experiences it. Pain is universal. Whether it's physical pain from hard work, emotional pain from failure, or mental pain from self-doubt, it shows up uninvited and tries to convince you to stop, to give in, to set. But here's the truth. Most people don't realize in the middle of that storm, pain is temporary. It has a limit. It passes. No matter how deep it feels in the moment, it will end. But the greatness that can be born out of it, that lasts. Pain wants your attention. It wants to be loud. It wants to control your thoughts, your energy, your decisions. When you're in it, everything feels heavier.
Every step takes effort. But what pain doesn't want you to realize is this. It is part of the process, not the enemy, not the stop sign, but the cost, a price that must be paid if you want something extraordinary, because greatness never comes free. It demands effort, discipline, sacrifice, and pain is how that price is paid. But once paid, the reward doesn't disappear, it stays, it lives with you, it becomes a part of who you are. Think of anyone you admire, anyone who's ever achieved something worth remembering. Behind their success is a story filled with discomfort, long nights, rejection, moments of complete doubt. But they pushed through it, not because they liked the pain, but because they believed in what was waiting beyond it. That's the mindset that separates the ordinary from the great. Not talent, not luck, just the willingness to suffer for something meaningful. And not just suffer, but to use the pain as fuel, to turn it into focus, into strength, into growth. Pain is loud, but it's also short-lived. It doesn't stay forever, even though it tries to convince you it will. If you keep going, if you hold on, you'll eventually look back and realize it was just a moment, a difficult chapter in a much bigger story. And that story, if you keep turning the pages, can become something powerful, something inspiring, something lasting. Because pain might shape you, but it's not what defines you. What defines you is what you do during it, how you show up when it hurts, how you move forward when you'd rather stop. That choice, that decision to keep going, is where greatness begins. Every great person has felt the same temptation to quit. Every one of them has hit a wall, faced failure, doubted themselves, but they kept walking, kept climbing, because they understood something most people don't. The pain will fade, but what you become because of it will not. And that's why pain, as real as it is worth it. Because greatness isn't found in comfort, it's built in the fire. Before we talk about the next challenge ahead, take a deep breath, feel the air fill your lungs, hold it for just a moment, let it go slowly, let everything else pause for this one small act of presence. Because in the middle of the chaos, the stress, the frustration, this is where your power lives. Not in the noise, but in the stillness, not in the rush, but in the reset. Sometimes we think strength is about speed, about moving fast and never stopping. But real strength is about control. It's about being able to stop, center yourself, and choose your next move with clarity. Remember your why, not just the words, but the feeling, the real reason behind all of this. That quiet voice you heard when you started, that fire in your chest, when you made the decision to chase something bigger than yourself. Maybe it was freedom, maybe it was pride, maybe it was peace. Whatever it was, it mattered then, and it still matters now. You didn't come this far to quit. You didn't suffer, sacrifice and struggle, just to give it all up. When things got hard, you came to win, to change, to grow, to become something greater than the version of you who first began. Now take the next step, not a giant leap, not the whole journey, just the next one. Because that's how it works, step by step, breath by breath, one honest effort at a time. You don't need to solve everything today, you just need to move forward, even a little, even slowly. That's where progress lives, in movement. No matter how small, no matter how messy, your next step is your power. So breathe, remember, move. That's how you come back stronger. Every time, you started for a reason. Maybe it was a dream, a promise, or a deep desire to change your life. That reason still matters. It still lives inside you. The journey was never supposed to be easy, but it was always meant to be worth it. When it feels hard, when you feel lost, when quitting seems easier than continuing, remind yourself, this path is yours. Every challenge you faced has prepared you for what's next. Stay the course. Keep showing up. Keep believing. Because success isn't one big moment. It's built one small choice at a time. One step, one breath, one day. You've got this. If this message spoke to you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world, and it helps us keep sharing the kind of content that reminds you of your strength. Let's keep going together.